Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock. This is City of Heroes, and as you can see, we have a level 44 Brute who's going to hit level 45 the next time she punches somebody, because she only needs 190 XP to go to get to level 45. And we're on a story arc for Tina McIntyre, but as you saw in the last episode, I think, assuming I posted it, I went through an outdoor mission and I could not find the hostage that I was looking for, so I'm going to be canceling that, but we can't do that for a couple of days. So I said, let me switch to Madeline Casey. You guys can see how this is done. Oh, it's really easy. If you are dealing with NPCs that are giving you missions that you can't or don't want to do, and you don't have the right time frame to cancel them, the easiest thing to do is just switch context. You can have up to 3 story arcs active at the same time. And I had friends in my supergroup, and what they said was they just kept 3 contacts active at all times, so that whenever they got a street sweep mission or whatever, if they didn't have time to cancel it, they would just switch story arcs. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to switch to Madeline Casey. And so she's going to ask us to stop the battle between the Richty and the Carnival, which is a door mission, and not an outdoor mission because it's in Brickstown and not on the train. But before we do that, we're going to go find somebody who's level 45 or so to smack around so that we can level up. There should be somebody. Well, that's purple. We don't want to do that. 48's a little bit too rich for my blood. We just want to find one little minion that we can punch. And we should get... Look at this. There's nobody? Are you kidding me? This is why street hunting stinks. We don't need to fight all those guys. I just want to find like one guy or a pair of guys. Sometimes down by the beach here, there's somebody. Gosh. Where the heck are all the villains? Oh god, war. Alright, well, we'll just fight these guys. This one right here will level me up, and then we can use our buffs to beat the Warhulk. And there we are. We are level 45. Is that guy a lieutenant? No, I don't think so. Did someone throw a buff on me? Almost looks like it. But I don't see one over there. Oh yeah, here. Somebody threw... No, that's energy focus. I don't know. Doesn't look like it. It feels almost like somebody threw fortitude on me from the sound. But I don't see it up there in the buff list. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is go back to Portal Corp and level up. Because our base is right there, then we can run over to the base and throw stuff into our slots. Because I have a bunch of IOs ready to go. So we're going to come over here and we will... Didn't this used to be Castle? Huh. Alright, well, trade up to a new level. We want to get this finished. And, yeah, I guess we'll do Power Crash. Boom. And then we will head to the base, and we can go to Brickstown from the base. Oh, and we're going to change our costume. We'll do that in the base. It's a special effects thing. I don't want to, like, bother people who might be around. Because there's fireworks when we change costumes. But we are changing to Liberty Lass's original classic costume with the alt colors. What? No fireworks? I thought I had it set for fireworks. All right, but anyway, so this is her. This is the actual costume I started with for her. Obviously, she didn't have a cape when the game launched, but by the time she hit level 25, they had put capes in the game, and I switched her colors to red on top, blue on the bottom instead of the reverse, and a blue cape instead of a red cape, and I made her gloves and boots white. And I loved this alternate version of the costume so much that it became the default for her, and I used her that way pretty much from then on. I mean, I had obviously other costumes because I'm a clothes horse when it comes to my characters, but yeah. So this will be her final costume, and it's sort of a variant of the original one we started with. And I don't think actually we need to invent anything. I think we've got what we need over here. So let's take a look at IOs. We need a defense buff. We've got it. We need, what do we need on this thing? Power crash. We need an endurance reducer. I don't know that we need recharge. I don't use it that much. It's got base accuracy of 1. So let's do an accuracy and an endurance reducer. So we got the endurance reducer, and let's do an accuracy. So we got double AC, reduced endurance, and so now this one, heightened senses, is now 15% defense to everything, right? And power crash now is 1.75x accuracy, which is great, and only costs 6 endurance every time we throw it. And I think we're good. And so we can head off to Brickstown with our level 45. Oh, the other thing I want to do, let's try it. Let's see how it goes. Let's do +3. And we'll see how we do, guys. We're act up. All of our accuracy has been buffed as best we can in terms of our enhancements. So let's see how we do. We also want to take a look here. Where is it? No, special. Yeah, we have 427 reward merits, so we still need like 170 some to get our IOs. And we're kind of stuck at it because we haven't been doing story arcs because I can't get a story arc, and then when I do get a story arc, I can't get the mission to complete. So hopefully this one will actually complete. This is just busting leaders and their crews, so if we just go in and beat everybody up, we should be fine. So now this is +3, and that means we're going to get +3 and +4 enemies in this mission, probably about 50-50, so it's basically a +3.5 mission. We'll see how we do. If it takes a ridiculous long period of time, or we're whiffing too much, or we're taking way too much damage, I'll put back on +2. And some of this has to do with making it watchable. I think, maybe I'm wrong, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like what makes a game like this watchable... Why are these guys only +2? Oh, you know what? It's a level 45 mission, I bet. So we can't, like, it caps out at 45 or 46 because this is a level 40 to 45 contact. So what's happening is, yeah. So what's happening is this is a level 44 contact, so it caps at 44. So 47 is the highest you can make it, right? In other words, 44 it's a 47 mission, right? So the guys in here will mostly be level 47s and some 48s. So we're not actually going to face a +3 mission in here because it's a -1 contact, right? But we may as well. We've been working this contact, trying to get a story arc, and it won't do us any good to change contacts. Wow, it won't do us any good to change contacts and not have the progress that we've made on the existing contacts. But we're not going to see what a +3 mission would really look like until we finish these 2 contacts. So I guess I'll leave it on +3 because that'll at least make it level 47. Speaking of progress, yeah, I've actually started my first lit RPG book. It is called The Land Founding by Alaron or Eleron. I don't know how you say his name. Kong. I'm almost done with it. It's an interesting way to read a book. There's a lot of like gameplay elements into it. It's sort of how I pictured them, but I feel like not all of them are going to be stylistically the same, and we'll see what happens when I read the others that I have. I think the next one I'm going to do might be He Who Hunts with Monsters. Although that's a huge one. There are one or two other ones that I have as well. Um, that I'm not remembering. The one, whichever one Seth Ring wrote, I can't remember the name of it. But for some reason I remember the name of the author. Um, so you have a couple more of those to do, but I'm not going to get straight into it because I have other stuff. I've got an Agatha Christie mystery I want to read, and I want to read The Sunlit Man by Sanderson. I just bought that recently, and a couple other books. So anyway, what made me think of it is that one of the things, and Kong has talked about this in interviews, is that one of the things people read these books for. And when he said it, I was like, really? But there actually is an attraction to it. One of the things they like an alternate name of lit RPG is progression novels, and the reason is that a lot of times what people are looking for when they read these books is the progression of the character, right? Watching the character level up and get more powerful, and that definitely happens in the book. The character's gained a number of levels and found some cool magic items and is leveling up his stats and everything. And it's sort of interesting to see how the author is having the character, the character who's running the character in the world, right? The i.e. the player, how he's deciding to change his stats in world, and what type of a player character he's creating. It's sort of a free form game that he's been sucked into, so he doesn't. You don't have to choose like a class. It's more like something like Savage Worlds, and so he started out very much like a rogue, but now he's switching to something else, and I won't say what spoilers, so I won't get any more than that. But yeah, it's sort of freeform, so you can kind of change your emphasis on what you want your character to do, and so it's just really interesting. Every few chapters, the character, the protagonist, levels up his stats and then has to like decide what skills or what abilities and whatever else to get, and so it's pretty cool. But there's definitely an attraction, an appeal to seeing the character progress more so than I thought there would be. I'm pleasantly surprised at that aspect of it because I thought that's something I'm not going to care that much about, the like in-game mechanical progress of the character, like who cares, but it's actually, because of the way it's presented, it's actually quite interesting, right? Because it definitely is a game come to life, and so what'll happen is like the character may want to do something, and it's like you can't until you find somebody to teach you this skill, or you can't until you level the skill to at least level 3. And so then he's got to figure out how to level the skill without having the skill, you know what I mean, or whatever. It's, pretty cool. I actually like it a lot. I like that aspect of it quite a lot. Um, there are other things that I'm not in love with about the book. I like, on a 5-star scale, I'd maybe give it 3 stars. I feel like the writing is rather sort of generic and not exciting to read. I would say exciting isn't the right word, but it's not. It's serviceable. It's not great writing. The actual English is mostly grammatically correct, although there actually are a few grammatical errors. But that's not surprising. I catch those even in a Brandon Sanderson novel. They're rare in a Sanderson novel because he has professional editors checking this stuff. And my guess is for his first novel, Dr. Kong, because he's an MD, or was before he started doing lit RPG novels, probably didn't have an editor. And my guess is he does now because his books have made the bestseller lists, actually. And so I suspect that if I go back and read, like if I read the next couple books as we go along, it'll probably be the case that the books will get better. And Sanderson would tell you, for instance, that was true of his books as well, although I really liked his first book, Elantris. Um, the writing it's serviceable. Like, you can understand what he's saying. I feel like the descriptions are lackluster. They're just sort of generic. There definitely is a style, at least to the way the Land is written, the first book, of assuming that the reader is a gamer and knows game terms like critting and stuff like that without explaining it, or knows, what a goblin or an ogre is without explaining it a lot. So there aren't a lot of sort of really evocative, descriptive passage. What did I saw somebody. Oh, I can't remember who it was. It's some famous like monk who was a writer back in like the 1600s or something at Oxford, who said that in order to be captivating or whatever, your writing has to have what he called thisness, which is just a bizarre term, and I think it's just silly. But what it means is just being very kind of descriptive in the moment, right? So you're not saying that Liberty Lass is in a lab, right? You're going to be describing the lab in this very evocative way, um, and which I'm not going to be able to do while I'm playing. But this idea of the person who was talking about this said Raymond Chandler, writing his hard-boiled detective fiction, used to do this, right? How the guy sounded fat over the phone, right? And it sounded like he wheezed as if trying to catch his breath from eating a bunch of pork pies or something like that. And so it's just this sort of very evocative description using um, metaphors and similes and that kind of thing to evoke the feeling in the reader that you're trying to get. Um, and we've aggroed the guys over there. So let's do this, and this, and this, and beat up the Guardian before he buffs anybody, although I don't think they buff people that aren't in their spawn. And the girl didn't come over, which is good for me. I don't have to get double teamed. So yeah, I guess the person I was watching talking about that would say that there's not a lot of thisness in the novel. Um, I don't mind that, but I do prefer a little bit more description in a story. I mean, now some people hate it, right? Some people want like dialogue, 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 and action, 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 and they don't really want descriptions. But I enjoy a good descriptive passage, and if it's very sort of, if it's very evocative, I tend to like it. You know, the way Tolkien used to describe things, Stephen R. Donaldson's types of descriptions, I really like quite a bit. Sanderson's pretty good, although I don't think as good as Donaldson or Tolkien. Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights, lots of great descriptive passages, and you could just picture the moors and everything, and maybe it's not the moors, but like the heath, and the way the characters were described and everything was just so great. You really feel like you're there, and for the world that's being described in the land, I'm not sure I quite get that, but of course, this isn't, you know, 18th century, 19th century literature, right? It's a book about somebody being like sucked into a video game. And for what it is, I think it's good. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to run out and get the next one right away, although depending on how this one ends, I might get it out of curiosity. And as I said, I suspect he's going to get better over time because that's what writers tend to do, except for the ones that get worse over time. Now we got some +3s. That's what I like to see. So yeah, I've been enjoying it, right? It's definitely a different type of genre, and I'm not sure I would want to read it all the time. But the gaming aspect of it is definitely the best part. The the game stats and turning, like having the character being aware of the RPG elements, and not only the character but the other characters, right? So like one of the NPCs hands him a book of lore to like get his lore skill up, or no. Yeah, to get his lore skill up, and then says, well, this only gets your lore up to level 2, and then if you want to do more than that, you're going to have to do this, that, and the other thing. You can't do that from the books, right? You're going to have to actually go out and study lore, like actual ancient stuff. And as you study it, you'll get better at lore. And so that kind of thing is kind of cool. I like seeing it um, manifested in the world, and how the characters, like the NPCs, are aware of some of it, but not all of it, which is kind of cool. Right, so they have some awareness of the game mechanics, but not. But then there are some stuff that they don't all know that isn't common knowledge, basically. And there were some really interesting, as I said, progression aspects to the story. And as I said, I wasn't really expecting to care about that part, and it's actually one of my favorite parts. And he said that in the interview he gave, that that is something that people really are into. And you kind of have to have that in the book. Like he said, if the character is static and is just like, say, comes into the world as a 20th level character and you can't go above level 20 and doesn't develop, most of the readers wouldn't like that, because they like seeing you start out as a weak level 1 who can barely swing a dagger or whatever, and end up becoming a powerful guy who can take out who can solo a dragon, right? Or like in this game, right? We're level 45 now, and that gives us powers and abilities that we wouldn't have had before. And so they like seeing that. And again, I wasn't sold on that being anything I would care about, and it turns out that he's right. Like, that is one of my favorite parts of the book. So it's really interesting, and I think the thing I'm most interested in is reading another one of these and seeing how a totally different writer presents it, because I know they're going to present it differently, and I think it'll be really interesting to see that, right? Like in the Land books, at least the first book, all of the like leveling up and the questing and the magic items that are found and stuff, all of that is presented in like tables, and I don't think the other books necessarily do that. But I haven't read them, so I don't know, right? I mean, spoilers, I didn't really look inside them. But from what I've heard, a lot of the other books don't do that. And so it's going to be interesting. Okay, well, if they don't present it in tables, which are a very unusual thing to see in a fiction book, right? Like data tables. You don't really see that in a fiction book. So it's a very unusual thing to see in a fiction book, but it's a very efficient way of showing the progression. And it's hard for me to imagine how else you would do it that wouldn't be way less efficient. And but I have to say, and again, this surprised me, because whoever it was, I can't remember now, who was interviewing Dr. Kong, showed like flipped open a page and showed the table of character data, and he said, you know, you have this all over the book. Is this really normal? Do people actually like this? And Alaron Kong said yes. They keep their own spreadsheets and they get really into it. Now I haven't done that. I'm not going to do that. But when I saw that, I was like, ooh, that's kind of weird. I don't know if I'm going to like that. And I have to say that, again, Alaron Kong was right, that at least, even though I was highly skeptical and wasn't sure I would like it, as I'm flipping through the book, you know, you can kind of see through the semi-transparency of the paper when you're reading the pages, because they're fairly thin. The way the printing is, you can see when you're on like an even page that when you flip to the odd page that's on the other side of the page, there's going to be a table coming up, and I'm always like, oh cool, a table, what's on this table? It's interesting. And again, it's not what I thought how I thought I would react to it. And I can't really put my finger on exactly why I reacted to it that way, except I guess that I'm a gamer, right? And I'm used to seeing this stuff. And I think, again, if we go back to how he doesn't really explain a lot of the gaming terms, I think it's because this is like somebody like me, and those of you who play these kinds of online RPGs, MMOs and stuff, we're the target audience, right? He's assuming that you're a World of Warcraft or City of Heroes or Star Wars Galaxies or EverQuest player, or were at one time, and you're familiar with this stuff, and so he can have his He hasn't actually had his protagonist yet, and I wish he would because it would be fun for me. Mention aggro. He's mentioned crits, and he hasn't mentioned pulling, although they have pulled, but he hasn't called it that. Um, so yeah, it's very interesting because it's an interesting mix, right? All of the NPCs are full characters, right? So it's not done as kind of a, I guess, like a satire or whatever, where like the NPCs would be just sort of flat, one-dimensional characters because that's what they are here, you know. Um, they're they're actual characters, right? And so they have feelings and opinions and emotions and stuff like that. Um, and so it's a little, it's different. It's not like you're going to have NPC reactions like, okay, let's try to pull them. And the NPCs are too stupid to realize that there's an attack going on. I guess if you wanted to do a satire, that might be actually really fun. But if you're trying to do something serious, and he's not doing a satire, um, obviously you wouldn't be making jokes about aggro and stuff because, but you could still use the term. So I don't know. It's just interesting. All right. Speaking of aggro, we've got too much of it here. I over aggroed. So it is interesting watching the character. Like he started out with no charisma and saying he didn't think charisma would be important. And then he got into a situation where he had to like persuade somebody and he had a real hard time with it. And then he said, okay, maybe I should put some points into charisma. And then the next time he had to do it, he was able to do a better job persuading, right? So it is sort of interesting to see how that works. I'm enjoying it a lot. Okay. So we have beaten the bad guys. We have progressed a little bit more in our quest, or mission, I should say. Reading too much of... Oh, here we go. Now I gotta defeat 45 Richti. And there's no way to cancel that one either. So um, this is why the one friend of mine on the one guild said she's got like 3 or 4 active contacts at a time. Because unfortunately, there's no way to get away from these horrible, horrible missions. And I wish the homecoming guys would just take these out of the game. Or just turn it to 5. Right? There's no reason to do 45. That's just such a waste of time. And there's no need. They don't need the content. Right? They're not making people subscribe, so they don't need people to like grind. Um, yeah, they should take these out of the game. And I don't know why they haven't, actually. They've been running this game for 5 years now. Why didn't one of them take this crap out of the game? Because it's horrible. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Craze Folly. Because I think I can get a bunch of them in Craze Folly, and it'll be easy, because Craze Folly is below my level. So, yeah. This is this silly stuff where you purposely go to a place where everything is 10 levels below you, or 5 levels below you, and you go fight Grey Khans on purpose just to get this out of the way. This is not good content in a game. It's actually really bad. And I understand why the developers did it. I understand why they had to do it um, in live, right? But there's absolutely no reason for them to have kept it in the game as long as they did. And there certainly isn't any reason for the homecoming guys to leave it in the game. They should just take this out. Just whatever this mission tells you at the end, especially since this isn't a story arc, so like who cares? Whatever this mission tells you at the end, um, they should just tell you. Oh my gosh, there's only 2 of them. I mean, this is going to take forever if I can only find 2 at a time. All right, guys, I'll pause it here and I'll bring you back when we've defeated all 45. All right, guys, it's been, I don't know, 10 minutes, and I have defeated all the Richti, a bunch of Richti here, and I actually messed up. Um, I was fighting them, and of course they're Grey Khans, And I just did this automatic reaction where a communications officer summoned a portal and I just beat the crap out of him. And the portal closed and I was like, oh man, I was so stupid. I should have left the portal open because more and more Rikti will come through the portal. I should have just left it there and left the communications officer alone. And it would have just kept summoning Rikti every few seconds. And then I found a couple more communications officers and I taunted them and stood next to them, but they never summoned their portal. So I don't know if you have to be a certain range away from them for them to try to do the summon. I've never really paid a lot of attention to it. It's the sort of thing I usually try to stop them, just like you try to stop the Guardians from putting up shields. And so it was just an automatic reflex, and then I realized, you're a dummy. You should have left the communications officer alone. He would have summoned tons of Rikti. I could have got like 10 of them done at once. Oh well. Live and learn. Or live and remember, I guess. Okay. Yeah, don't see the point of Rikti monkeys. This is another type of enemy that can't do anything to you. I could stand there all day with 3 Rikti monkeys, 4 Rikti monkeys surrounding me, and they wouldn't do anything to me, right? Like, here. They're not going to be... They're barely going to hit me. If they hit me, they're not going to be able to overwhelm my defenses. Look at that. They're not even attacking me. There. But even if they hit me, they're not going to be able to do enough damage fast enough to overwhelm my health regen. So it's like, what is the point of these things? It feels like there are too many of these silly little equivalents of gears for the clockworks and Rikti monkeys and that sort of stuff in the game. These little like mini mobs that aren't even minions. They're just like little whatever they call them, little creatures. I can't remember the official name for them, but they're so weak, and they're basically just there to be annoying. Yeah, if I were actually the lead dev of this game now, there is a lot I would change. What would you change? Put it in the comments. So thing number 1 is all of the street sweeping missions would go away. They would just be gone. Thing number 2 is all these little underlings, I would just take all underlings out of the game. I might like let the bosses drop a few underlings occasionally for flavor, but I would just take them out of the game. Having them as part of the mission, as part of the defeat all, this is like a complete waste of time. So I'd take them out of the game. Obviously not summon pets for players, but all this silly stuff, especially things like the gears, right? Where the boss is done, and then the gears show up, and that's all there is to fight, and they're totally useless. What is the point of that? So I would take them out of the game. They'd be gone. So that's one thing I would change. And the other thing I would change is all street sweeping missions would go away. I mean, I would leave the low level ones below level 10, right? Just as a tutorial, and at least minimally, maybe I wouldn't take them out of the game. I would put a toggle. Do you want the street sweeping missions? Yes or no. If you don't want them, you just turn them off. Just the way you can turn off archvillains in your missions and stuff. And as a player, of course, first thing I would do is go in there and turn those off. So that's for sure. Those are 2 things I would do. What else would I do? I'd probably lower the cost a little bit of these things. Because if you look at somebody like me, where I have just relentlessly done nothing but story arcs and flashbacks of all the story arcs that I missed as I was leveling up to level 45, and I still don't have enough. That's what I want. This one. I still don't have enough of these things at level 45 to buy the second of the 2 ATOs. That seems a little bit extreme, right? If I wasn't hardcore doing like mining story arcs, that'd be one thing. But I've been basically grinding story arcs. It's not really grinding, but I've been doing the equivalent of grinding story arcs since the beginning. I've even turned off XP a few times and avoided leveling so I could do. I've gone back and sidekick to do extra story arcs, and I'm nowhere near having enough reward merits. So I would either increase the number of reward merits in missions, or I would reduce the amount that you need instead of it being, what is it, 100 per, maybe make it 80 per. I wouldn't reduce it a lot, but at 80 per, I would be done. All right, we're going to go down the other thing, and so we're going to go into the one. When we come back, we got to go to the one with the pin in it. The other thing I would do is I would edit the reward merits per mission to make it make some kind of sense, because at this point it makes no sense to me. Right? You can do 2 different story arcs at the same level, and one will give you, 30 reward merits, and the other one will give you 12. It's like, what is, like, I don't understand that. Does that have to do with the length? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. It should be based on level. And it doesn't seem to be. And I've done ones where they're like, you get, oh, okay, we're getting like 57 merits a story arc now. Oh, that's going to be a lot. Well, all we need is 4 more story arcs. And then the next story arc, same level, or maybe a level higher, and I get 31. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, didn't I just get 53? What happened? There's no rhyme or reason to it. To me, I am a very logical person. I want it to make sense. My master's advisor actually used to say that to me when things didn't make sense, and it would frustrate me, and he would say, that's because you want it to make sense, right? Your problem is you want it to make sense. Usually we were talking about some policy at the university where I was doing my master's degree, because the policies generally didn't make sense. But he said, yeah, your problem is you want it to make sense, and it doesn't. Right? And I'm like, yeah, it should make sense. This is a university. The people who set these rules up have PhDs in things like philosophy and logic. Why is it not sensible? Why does it not make sense? And it's the same thing with this. I think it should be a very clear progression, right? For level 1 to 5 story arcs, you get 5 merits per arc. I don't know what the right number would be, but I'm just making these up. Level 6 to 10, you get 10 per arc. Level 11 to 15, you get 15 per arc, etc. Just nice, straightforward, consistent, logical, makes sense. Every one of them is the same way. It shouldn't be variable. It shouldn't look like it's some number plus or minus, right? It should be the same for a given level. At least that's what I think. So those are things I would change for sure. What else would I change? I mean, there's not a lot. This is a pretty darn good game. I might increase the salvage. Maybe I wouldn't increase the salvage on our inventory, but I might increase it in the salvage racks. There's like, let the salvage racks store 250 instead of 100 or something like that. And I would also increase the vault. Because at level 40, I know it goes up as you level a little bit, but at level 45 I have 90 slots in my vault. Yeah, I'd up that, right? I would say, look, you can't carry it necessarily a lot on you, but I would definitely up the vaults. Okay, so we're dealing with where is she? Master Illusionist here, and it won't let me target her. Here we go. Come on, come on. Alright, so yeah, we're going to need everything for her because I don't have my big... defense right now. I did not expect her. If we can stun her, we might be okay. I'm going to ignore the phantoms because you can't, like, they're useless to worry about. And yeah, we're not going to fight the phantasms. Here we go, Headman. The phantasms will just ignore. Oh, that's the other thing I would change. NPC pets have to work like PC pets. When a PC dies, the pets vanish. The NPC ones have to do it too. These phantasms should go away as soon as she goes. She face plants, they should disappear. Either that, or when a player character face plants, their pets stay around. You can't have it work different ways in the same world for the same type for different characters, right? The illusion controller, their pets vanish when they face plant, then the illusionist NPCs have to as well. And yeah, these guys shouldn't stick around. So that's another thing I would change for sure. So I'm just ignoring him because he's irrelevant. He's not part of the defeat all. He will disappear eventually, and there's no point to fighting him. He's just annoying. So yeah, I would get rid of them too. I wouldn't get rid of them. I would just make it so that when they're gone, the pet goes away. So yeah, you're the lead dev of Homecoming, and the team has decided that whatever you want, they're going to do. What would you do? If you had your druthers, what would you do? And yeah, I was watching a YouTube at one point where somebody, I don't know, it was a British person, did not know what the word druthers was. And so if you don't know, druthers means if you get your way, right? If I have my druthers means if I have my way. Look at this guy's got me to 21% to hit. With all my accuracy buffs, he had me at 21%. Oh, and that's the other thing I would do. I don't necessarily want to make the game easier. It's already too easy. I've got it on +3. So, I mean, I might do stuff to make it a little harder. But one of the things I would change, I know it would make the game a little easier, but again, I'm a stickler for continuity, and I want the rules of the universe to be consistent for everybody, right? One of the things that I've talked about that happened when they did the GDN, the Global Defense nerf, is they did the nerf for player characters, but the NPCs are still using the old pre-nerf defenses. That's got to go. If I'm running the show, that's over. They get the same defenses we get. Dr. Lila shouldn't be running around with the closed beta version of temporary invulnerability. Give her the same one the player characters have. And the behemoth overlords, or not the behemoth overlords, the regular behemoths, should not be able to turn on invincibility and make me go from 75% to 25% to hit from in one shot. When I turn on invincibility with my invulnerability tanker, it makes somebody go from 75 to 70. It shouldn't be that different, right? So if the player character's version of the power gets nerfed, every version of that power gets nerfed. It's the only way to make the powers work the same way and give the world a feel of consistent rules. Now, I'm sure what they'd say is, what the other devs would say is, yeah, but if we do that, then it's already too easy. It's going to be even easier. Okay, well, there's got to be a way to do some buffing. Let the enemies do more damage per hit or something like that. I don't care if you buff them in some other way, but I do not want them having the same power as my character and their version is better than mine. That even enhanced, right? Their version is better than my fully IO set enhanced version of that same power. That should not be. I don't mind if you make the NPCs get the enhanced version of that power. Put 6-slot it. I don't care because PCs can do that too. So high level NPCs should have 6-slotted versions of the power, right? And I don't know how that works within the guts, whether they get slotted versions or how they do it. I'm all for that. Let them have slots. The player characters get it. The NPCs should get it too, especially at high level. But I don't want them using something where the base power is +10 for me and +100 for the NPC just because, right? If I'm nerfed, they get nerfed too. To me, that's necessary to have a world that has rules that feel consistent, and also I don't like it when the NPCs cheat. You want to change it to 4 minions a spawn instead of 3 because of that? I'm all for that. Change the formula. Decide that you can decide that 3 minions a spawn was worked back in the old days, and now with the escalation of powers and sets and everything else, the power creep, we need to do 4 minions per hero. I'm fine with that because that's not messing with the rules of the universe. But I don't like it when the Iron Strongman gets one version of invincibility, and I get a different version. Because again, that feels cheap. So that's something else I would do. Again, there's not a huge amount because at its core, COH is a really good game. So I wouldn't have to make a lot of changes. But I would call a lot of these sort of quality of life changes. It's not really affecting major quantitative aspects of the game, but it's making small changes to the game that I think would, well, that at least would make me a lot happier. So if you could change any aspects of City of Heroes that you wanted, what would you change and why? Okay, so I missed a couple of guys in here, it looks like. Over here. Yeah. And that guy looks like a phantom. So where did he go? Are you telling me that I've got another bugged mission here without that, where I don't have the one of the enemies despawned or something, and I'm not gonna be able to complete yet another mission? How the heck buggy is this game all of a sudden? Alright, let me try the other levels and see. Otherwise, guys, we're going to have to stop with yet another incomplete mission, and I'm going to just have to wait. Because I'm not doing these missions again. That's silly. Alright, let's go over here. And try down here. Ah. We got to destroy that thing. I missed a glowy. She said I didn't even see that. Hiding over here. And that is the mission. And let us head out. I think that's good for tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and please leave in the comments what changes would you make. I bet there's stuff I've missed. I will resist the urge to say take all nervous spectra demons out of the game. I might reduce the level ranges where they exist. I might push it up above 20 so that you don't face them below 20 and end it at 30 so that you get a sense of them, you get to deal with them, but then they go away and you don't have to keep dealing with them, and throw in a lot more behemoths or something. They're a lot less annoying. Okay. Do we have a story arc yet? We do. So there's to save a soul. All right, so this is the story arc for Madeline Casey. So we're going to grab that, and now we're on a story arc for her as well, and we'll alternate between Tina and Madeline as necessary to avoid either bugged or annoying missions, so that I don't have to do street sweeping. I didn't mind doing the Rikti that much because I knew there were a bunch of large spawns, gray spawns in Craze Folly, so I was able to take them out in like, I don't know, 8 minutes or something. But I very much don't like the Carnival of Shadows ones where you have to go find them because they only exist in Peregrine Island. And as you saw, there's hardly any spawns on Peregrine Island. So there's only like 8 spawn points where you can find carnies at all, and they share spawn points with Malta and Rikti and Nemesis in various spots. So you can defeat a bunch of carnies and they get replaced by Rikti. You defeat the Rikti and they get replaced by more Rikti. You defeat the Rikti and they get replaced by Nemesis. You defeat the Nemesis, they get replaced by carnies. You defeat the carnies, they get replaced by Nemesis. You defeat the Nemesis, they get replaced by Rikti, right? And you're standing there trying to defeat these carnies, and you end up to defeat 50 carnies, you got to defeat 500 guys. Not doing that. So, yeah, that's something else that would be changed if I ran this game. So go ahead and put in your comments, what would you change? Would you keep some of the stuff that I'm saying I would ditch or, you know, change? Or do you agree with me that some of these things need to change? What would you change? What really bothers you that you wish could be changed? And is it maybe something easy that the homecoming guys could do? I don't know. You know, some things seem like really hard to do, like new animations, but they've been able to do them both here and on Rebirth. And other things would seem really easy to me to do, like just divide the number of things you have to defeat after level 10 by 5. So instead of 45 Rikti, just defeat 9. Okay, I can do that, you know. Or take them out of the game. It seems like it would be easy to take those out of the game. But maybe not. I don't really know how it works. So, but anyway, we're not asking what would be realistic. We're saying, okay, you are the god of City of Heroes development and Homecoming. You get to decide, and whatever you want, the coders will be able to do for you. What would you change? So I've given you some of my ideas. Go ahead and give us some of yours. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Heroes.